Sex in the pews. Sex in the pews. Sex in the pews.
Sex in the pews.
Gone. It's a beautiful day in Tampa Bay, for thank God it's Friday, January 18th, 2019, the only 1/18/2019 in the history of humanity. Let us continue to choose on purpose, with a purpose, to give a great day. Greetings, you beautiful humans. This is Glenn Klein.
And Owen Pratt.
Welcome into the pews, Sex in the Pews for a Friday. Hope you are enjoying a TGIF wherever you are. How are you enjoying your TGIF?
I'm enjoying it immensely.
Nice.
It's enjoying me.
Of course it is. What are you consuming right now?
Aside from the beautiful... Do you consume oxygen? That was a weird little side thought. I'm drinking a Stella Artois right now.
I think you could say you consume oxygen.
Yeah, you consume it, and then you produce a byproduct of carbon dioxide.
Yes, he's not just a pretty face, ladies and gentlemen. He actually has a brain. He's Owen Pratt. You know him, you love him. You can't live without him. Our co-host, our producer, our engineer extraordinaire, ready to spin the dials to add his particular insight. As what is your generation? What generation are you in? You're
Generation Z or something.
Z or some
Z,
fucking ridiculous thing. You're not a
Z.
millennial, are you?
I don't know. I was born in 93.
93.
Mm-hmm. Quick Google will tell us.
It's not really that important, actually. But if you have to, he's our go-to guy for information too, folks.
Quick on the keys here, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not the only thing. We are delving into all things sexual and desiring to release you into knowledge and information and freedom and fun so that you can experience one of the most important aspects of the human experience, which is healthy sexuality. And the reason that it's Sex in the Pews is because we recognize that religion historically has been the major force and institution and organizational effort to have people not be able to experience all life has to offer them sexually. It's not just a coincidence that when people in this country start identifying themselves who were not born with a vagina as a female or born with a penis as a male and everything, whatever they want, who comes against it? It's the religious folks. Who gives a fuck how people identify themselves? Who cares what bathroom they use? When our oldest daughter, Hannah, got married to Angel, by the way, that was Hannah and Angel on the jingle. I want to thank them and Reaction Productions for that fantastic intro. When they got married, Hannah had a girlfriend of hers named Claire play the flute. She was a flautist. But she was transitioning to becoming Aaron.
Wow.
And so we knew what was up. And Claire, who becomes Aaron, was just,
How old was she when she made the transition?
Well, I think that he now is the same age as Hannah and Angel, 28. So she probably 20-ish.
Right.
Or at least it's starting the process. Can you imagine that you are born in a certain body, but you're different inside? That's got to be really... I mean, you've got to be very committed to manifesting that experience, given even the social mores today. There have been transvestites and transgender people forever. Fucking J. Edgar Hoover, the founder of the goddamn FBI, who the J. Edgar Hoover building. That's the FBI headquarters to this day. His name is on it. We know how corrupt that guy was. He was a transvestite. He wore dresses. And not a very good-looking transvestite, I would imagine. He was not a good-looking man, Owen. As a younger man, he might have been. He had a little weight in his later years. He had the jowls. I don't think you would have necessarily been attracted to him, even in a dress.
Probably not.
Never know about these things.
Never know.
But Claire showed up for the wedding, and instead of going to, she was in the wedding party. Instead of going to where the women and Hannah were getting dressed, unbeknownst to us, she showed up in our dressing room with this tuxedo. And everybody was like, okay, this is what's happening right now. And it was great. It was great. And he just came over, Aaron did, with his girlfriend now at a family dinner recently. And he's got facial hair and
Wow.
he's gained a little bit of weight. And he looks like a man to me. I had a buddy of mine who he went on a dating site. And he met a very beautiful woman on this dating site. You ever been on a dating site?
Been on a couple.
You probably don't need them.
They're convenient. You can sit on your couch and find potential mates.
And Bumble
or
whatever the fuck.
Tinderize.
Mm-hmm. So he meets this woman, gorgeous, and they're chit-chatting as you young people do. I even have done it from time to time. I have 6 children, so you know I've done it at least 6 times. He finds this gorgeous woman, and they're chit-chatting for about 45 minutes. And at some point, she says to him, you know I'm a tranny, right?
It's a bomb.
And, yeah, he was like, no. But she was pretty famous in the tranny and adult video industry. But she was looking for dates on Jasmine, her name was. On whatever site they were on. So he goes and meets her because he's a curious dude. And gorgeous woman. I mean, there's not a heterosexual man on the planet that if they didn't know that Jasmine had a larger than average clitoris, if you will, wouldn't do her if you wanted to have sex with somebody.
Sure.
Who was a female. And he said to her, he goes, Jasmine, I don't understand. You're woman. You're all woman. And she said, this is God's way of apologizing to me for putting me in the wrong body.
I don't understand that. What do you mean?
Well, she's strikingly beautiful.
Okay.
And, of course, she's enhanced it. She always was beautiful as a guy. But she's a gorgeous woman. She didn't do anything for that. She's, helped herself along the way. I think she got fake boobies now. But what did she do to be beautiful and to be feminine? And because some of the, Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, not so much. I mean, it's fine, whatever. I mean, listen, there's somebody for everybody, they say. But this woman was smoking. And the way that she articulated her femininity as still having a penis this was God's way of saying sorry for putting you in the wrong body. That would not be our theology that we would articulate, but that's how she articulated it. And religion and religious people religious people are perfect, righteous, and holy just like everybody else, whether they know it or not. They don't think, they may think that they're holy and righteous from time to time. They don't think that everybody is. We do.
They're working towards it.
Yeah. It's more of God, you fuck that shit.
More of God, less of me.
Yeah, exactly. We're one, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't make a difference what you believe. If you do believe, whatever you think, as far as our understanding, and I've been doing this for the vast majority of my life, studying, contemplating, researching theology, as far as the ancient texts and the revelation that I have in my heart, you and I and Owen and our soon-coming guest, Dena Lynn, and everybody within the when I say everybody, I mean everybody, are one and perfect inside, internally, spiritually, if you will, just the way we are. Religious people don't think that way. And they feel guilty about, having sexual thoughts. And so what do? They impose their guilt. Psychologists have a saying for it. They call it projection. They project their guilt on people who just want to go to the bathroom. Jesus. Leave. It's none of your goddamn business.
It's like the most homophobic people are probably the gayest.
Well, we know that for, remember Ted Haggard?
No.
You're too young. Ted Haggard was a very prominent evangelical charismatic. I was friends with Ted Haggard back in the old religious days. He stayed at my house. I stayed at his house in Colorado Springs. He was the president eventually of the Evangelical Association of America. He lived in Colorado Springs, huge church in Colorado Springs.
Huge.
And he was, of course, in the White House all the time with George W. Bush. He's an advisor to Junior. And eventually, of course, it comes out that, like so many others, that Ted Hager was gay. Or at least had some gay liaisons. And then all of a sudden, once you're caught, or once a Christian or a religious person has a gay relative or a gay child, all of a sudden they're a little bit softer around the edges about it. Sometimes they disown their kids. That's a real shame. Religion means something, ladies and gentlemen. It's from the Latin root word religare, and it means to religion in the Latin, to put not under bondage, to put back under bondage. See, the whole concept in the New Testament, if you will, not the book of the New Testament, the whole concept of going from this weird fucking ass God who was doing things like, destroying entire civilizations and needing a blood sacrifice and raising people from the dead, or raising one person from the dead, and fucking splitting Red Seas and talking donkeys and, all the fucking insane shit that we can't relate to on this side of the covenant of the sacrifice, because it just there's no way God could do that. Why would he do that? Well, that begs the question: how could there be a creator of the universe? I mean, clearly, if somebody could create the universe or has been involved, if you believe in a creator, if that makes any kind of sense to you at all, it's not a stretch to say that you could have a virgin conception. There'd be nothing to God, the ultimate motherfucker of God.
The ultimate motherfucker of God.
Yep. God himself. He fucked Mother Mary. He was
making him the motherfucker of God.
Exactly. It's not a stretch to say that the concept of a distinct pattern or path to where we're at right now, but in what was called the new covenant, the new way of thinking, God's new economy, is that nobody's sinful. The way that we think, there hasn't been a sinner on the planet in 2,000 years. And yet, when people think they're sinners, guess what happens? They act like sinners. They commit mass genocide. And here's one thing that I know, and this is historically true. It's true right now on the planet in 2019. Wherever religion dominates, women are persecuted. The ones that catch it the worst are the ones without the penises. And you know what? Who that really fucks up? The men. As much as it fucks up the women, it really fucks up the men. The reason that we have Islam, the fundamentalist version of this, the extreme, the Wahhabi Islam, the guys that were involved in 9/11, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the reason that they are so extreme is because of extreme self-loathing and because they can't find satisfaction in bed. Because they mutilate their girls. This is a general practice in the extreme Muslim world. And they either mutilate or remove a young girl's, at 12 years old, clitoris. They call it female circumcision. And oftentimes, sew up the vagina, guaranteeing that the girl will be a virgin at birth or at marriage. Bro, let me tell you something. And broettes out there. The ultimate pleasure in bed is giving pleasure. You know that. Jesus said it. It's better to give than to receive. It's more blessed to get. It's blessed to receive. You like to receive head, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what guy doesn't? Well, there actually, we had somebody on to talk about that their husband didn't like to get at, or their boyfriend, I guess. So these are general statements we're making, ladies and gentlemen. They're not 100% true, but you can go to the bank on them, on most of it.
Some of it's complete bullshit, but hey.
But would you garner more pleasure from getting a woman off when you go down on her, or her bringing you off?
Oh, when I'm doing my thing and she is receiving it and graciously and responding immensely to what I'm doing, there's nothing more exciting than that. It fires me up even more.
Well, let's see if our next guest will agree with that. Please welcome online. She is Dena Lynn. She is a resident of the great state of Oregon. She's married. She's a mother of 8, a lover of humanity who experiences life through an artistic and shamanic soul. She's spiritually promiscuous, sexually voracious, and relationally monogamous. Her life's purpose is to help each person she encounters to see and be who they truly are. She's an artist. She's a teacher of her art. Her website is serendipitiesbydena.com. Please welcome into the pews from the great state of Oregon, Dena Lynn. Dena!
Thank you. What a lovely introduction.
Well, you wrote it.
Yeah, well, you told me to.
I did, and you being the obedient woman that you are, you followed the fucking...
I had my moment. Okay, I've met my quota for the year. My obedience is done. Done.
But how great was my pronunciation of your very syllabus words?
Excellent. You did well.
Is it pronounced shamanic or shamanic?
Shamanic, yeah. It's there's a long story here, but I'm not one of those people who claims to be a shaman just because it's a cool and sexy way of calling yourself spiritual. It was a long, grueling process of 2 different years where I went through the medicine wheel and explored that whole construct of spirituality. It's sort of the original humans version of what it's like to be both human and divine, sort of an antenna between the earth and the cosmos. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. So
do you oversee psychedelic journeys for people? Is this part of your shaman ritual?
Not the tradition I was trained in, although I have experienced an ayahuasca ceremony in Poland, ironically enough, several years ago. And I'm fascinated by entheogenic plants, medicine plants. It depends on which tradition you would come from. So I was trained in the Peruvian tradition, and they're more about the mountains. But in the valley, in the jungle of Bolivia, yes, they definitely oversee the ayahuasca ceremonies. Although there's a whole bunch of tourist shamanism going on where people are getting harmed because people are taking advantage of what should be a sacred experience and turning it into a financial thing.
Oh, shocking. People would be taking advantage of people's spiritual vulnerability. I'm shocked and dismayed.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people that are listening around the planet right now, Dena, that have no idea what a shaman is. Could you please define the way you see what a shaman is?
Sure. So if you look at all the indigenous people groups around the planet and you go back tens or even hundreds of thousands of years to when humans, there was original recorded history, whether it's with pictures on cave walls, etc. The original human groups all over the planet had this same, or at least similar, notion that they were connected to the earth beneath their feet and also to the cosmos. So they observed life and came to some natural conclusions, such as, ooh, look, life is coming out of female bodies, therefore there must be this giant cosmic womb that we're coming out of. And yet there was also this masculine element. So I'm really not making it simple, am I? Basically, it's a way of looking at life and forming your spiritual conclusions on what you observe. So if you're surrounded by mountains, there must be some power to them. If it's the ocean, there must be some power to it. And that we are basically this antenna between Father Sky and Mother Earth.
Of course, the Christians that are listening to us right now, or if they were listening, would hear you describe yourself in a shamanistic way, would say she's of the devil.
Of course. I would have been one of them, a dozen years ago.
Why would you have been one of them, and why would they describe it that way?
Well, my history is such that I became a born-again believer when I was 15. My father was a new Christian and led me to the Lord, and I then became a charismatic Christian, began speaking in tongues when I was also 15, and then had my own experience, a 30-plus year experience of being a Christian, including being married formerly to a pastor, a Messianic pastor. And we were part of a denomination that was charismatic, liturgical, and evangelical. We had everything. The holy water and the funny pointy hats and evangelism explosion and rock music and speaking in tongues and slaying of the spirit. Everything had everything.
It was like the Golden Corral of Christianity, if you will.
Oh yeah, God, yeah, and
All
also
you can eat
though they
buffet.
didn't announce this, heavily misogynistic. So the men would discuss the meat, and the women would go have tea and discuss our children. And I had children. I had 8 babies, and I was a homeschooling pastor's wife. And
Whoa,
I
whoa, whoa, whoa,
would have
whoa, whoa, whoa,
who
whoa,
I-
whoa, 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 whoa.
Pump the brakes.
Time out.
Free.
Wait. You had 8 children yourself?
Well, I had a little help in getting them conceived, but yeah, I pushed them out.
with the same guy? 8 with the same man?
Uh, yes.
Wow.
My ex-husband and I fathered 8 rather amazing humans. Yep.
Beautiful humans, as we like to call them on this.
They are.
Quality
They're
podcast.
beautiful. And if they came out more than one at a time, I would have quit. But they came out one at a time, and yeah, and they were collectible, adorably collectible.
Would you like to give us the names of your 8, if you can remember them?
Sure. Joshua, Michaela, Zachary, Gabriel, Elijah, Mariah, Isabel, and Benji.
Did you ever see?
Oh no! Wait. He's 12 now. He's Benjamin. He's no longer
Oh.
Got the whole
or Ben.
nativity
No longer
scene
Ben.
there. The whole cast of Old Testament
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie fuck what the movie God damn it, Goodwill Hunting with Matt Damon,
Yes, I did.
and he
Mhm.
lies to Minnie Driver that he's got 12 brothers.
Yes.
And he's the 13th, and of course he's a genius. He's got a photographic memory, and she makes him name him, and you sounded like Matt Damon in Goodwill
Well,
Hunting.
yeah. I could have done middle names too. All the boys have Israel for a middle name, and then the girls have different names. But they're truly. I would love them if I wasn't their mother. They're incredible people.
So you had 8 children within this incredible cornucopia buffet of a Christian experience. And how was your marriage?
It was. We discovered late in the game, about 25 years in, or I discovered that we didn't have a lot in common. He's a good man, excellent provider, a good father. But our marriage, I mean, I did the Christian thing. I married this guy, and we did the best we knew how to do. I believe there's such a thing as a starter marriage where you work out your unresolved childhood issues, but you can't know that it's that or it won't work. And sometimes they expire. And
Can we
mine did.
unpack that a little bit? You lost me for a second.
Sure.
Did I hear starter marriage? Was that the phrase you
Yes.
used? And
Yeah,
you-
it's a personal theory. I can't prove it, but I do believe, and I've seen evidence in other people's experiences, we have a lot of unresolved baggage in childhood that we're not equipped with a child's brain to deal with. And then we often find people either in usually intimate relationships, so a marriage or a long-term intimate relationship where you get close enough to each other to step the hell out of each other's triggers. And you bring all of that stuff screaming to the surface and you deal with it. Hopefully you deal with it, or you keep repressing it and you keep repeating the pattern with other relationships. That's why they get familiar after a while.
so
And
how-
sometimes marry someone very much like one or both of our parents. And that was the case for me. Now, I didn't know this. This was unconscious. But we attract what's familiar to us, even if it's dysfunctional, so that we can work it out. And sometimes that person becomes your happily ever after. And sometimes the relationship expires. And then the kind thing is to let it die a death and be grateful for what it was, rather than, taxiderm the marriage and prop it up in the living room and make everybody pay homage to it. And mine
Beautiful
served its
symbolism.
purpose, and it expired. And it was hard to face, very hard to face.
But the implication by calling it a starter marriage is that it's a starter. It's like, it's the first car. It's a starter car. It's a starter home. It's like
Yes.
It's like this is a preparation for the actual home, or the better home, or the better car.
Some people have a multitude of 3 to 4 significant, and when I say marriage, it could be relationship marriage. It doesn't matter to me, because it really doesn't matter. It's a heart situation, not a state ordained situation. But you can have a long-term relationship with someone, and within that relationship have 3 or 4, I'm calling it marriage just for the sake of the level of connection. You can have 4 different marriages within one relationship, because you're growing and evolving as a person, and so is the other person. And it's important to renegotiate and say, so what is the state of the union? How have you changed? How have I? How do we want to do this either the same or differently based on who we are now? And I grew and changed as a person, and I knew I had, and I wanted to go the distance with my then husband, but he wasn't willing to do the changing, the growing necessary to grow with me. And we went different ways, and he's living his life now in another relationship, and I'm living my life now in another relationship.
But he transitioned into almost an immediate relationship, if I remember the story correctly.
He did seem to want to do that. Yeah, I had a few different relationships.
A few.
Yeah, there were a few.
A few meaning like 3, or a few meaning like 30.
Oh no, more in the single digits. I didn't have that much time. I've only been divorced since 2010, so I haven't had. I go deep, so I'm not looking for lots of one night stands type of things. I like to go deep one-on-one.
Yes, indeed. We're talking with Dena Lynn. This is Sex in the Pews for our Friday. Glenn Klein, Owen Pratt in the Hitting Home Studios here in Tampa Bay, Florida. Dena, what happened? How did you continue to evolve? What happened in your life, and that either Mark couldn't or wouldn't be willing to come along after? How many years was this?
I don't want to focus too much on him. I believe we all do the best we can, and our lives were meant to be together and then to come apart. We were meant to have these children. I believe they wanted us as parents. There's all kinds of things behind the scenes that we may or may not want to get into. But as far as what happened to me, I'd had 7 babies, and I had had 2 out of 3 miscarriages, and they had a big impact on me, even though I already had 7 kids, and 7's a lot of kids, no question. And I was 42, so I was approaching an age where perhaps having more children was not a great thing to do. I thought, semi-happily married. I thought it was the best that I could have. I was a strong Christian, completely bona fide in every sense of the word, the real deal. And I didn't know what I was looking for or what I wanted, but I think on a soul level, a subconscious level, something in me cried out for more. I'm guessing at that part. What I actually experienced, it was Monday, May 24th, 2004 at 3:45 p.m. I know because I looked at the car radio clock. I was waiting for my son to finish his drum lesson, and I wasn't thinking anything sexual because I never thought about anything sexual. I had been frigid, as in rabidly sex-hating frigid, never had an orgasm at age 42. So I'm sitting in my car and I'm thinking
another one of these, Owen. We just talked to another woman, Jacqueline Moore. She hadn't had an orgasm. I think it was 42.
Yeah, in her 40s.
Something about 42. The answer to everything, they say. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah, so I'm looking at the dogwood blossoms. I was in Virginia and thinking, it's not very humid yet this time of year. And then all of a sudden I got hit with what felt like an invisible bolt of lightning. I don't know how to describe it, and I had no reference for it. But this energy went up and down my spine and went all through my body. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt vibrantly alive, and I had a strong sexual arousal. And I'd never experienced that before, ever. It felt like Dorothy going from black and white to Technicolor in Oz. It was like suddenly the lights came on and I got what all the songs are about and the poetry's about and the movies are about. It's like, oh, holy shit. This is what's been missing from my life. All of that
did the song come out from the radio? We represent the lollipop skill, the lollipop skill, the lollipop.
Radio wasn't even on. The only thing on was me, and I was just vibrating with this energy. And being a good Christian homeschooling pastor's wife mom, as I was, my thought was, uh-oh, this is too good to be moral, ethical, and probably not even
Did you
legal.
how much did you recognize it as a sexual response, or is that only in retrospect?
Well, I I ended up calling my husband and saying, "What time are you going to be home?" And Mr. Husband, who had been sexually neglected and refused terribly for many years, had no idea what was happening with me. And he said, "Are you okay? Kids okay?" I said, "We're great. I'll be home. I'll be in the bedroom. I'll be naked." And I'm sure he thought aliens had abducted me. But as long as I looked like his wife, he could probably get away with this. And of course, now all of that was in hindsight and conversations after. But I suddenly had sexual desire, and
Did you
my husband was, of
recognize it
course,
as sexual desire right away?
oh yeah, it was.
And then what did you do with that other than call him?
I I ran home, got naked, and waited in the bedroom. And
Did he show up in
oh
more
yeah,
ways
oh
than one?
yeah, yeah, and it was, oh gosh, um, there's much to the story, but
We've
basically
got
it
time.
was an
It's a beautiful thing about a podcast. We don't have to break for commercials.
okay.
We're just gonna let it roll, baby.
But
Let it
there was
roll.
no, I did not discover how to have an orgasm for 6 weeks. So for 6 weeks, it was rather intense. It was, oh God, waking him up first thing in the morning and waiting all day for him to get back from work, dragging him upstairs by his tie. I would throw a couple Veggie Tales at the kids and say, "We'll be down in 2 episodes, and then I'll make you dinner," and
So
then waking up
he
in the middle of the night.
he could last 2 episodes of Veggie Tales apparently. That's pretty good.
It was miraculous.
How was
It was
how
miraculous.
was how was he responding to this?
He was grateful.
Did he go
I
down?
remember,
Did he go down on you, or did he take care of your
you
situation?
know, this is so awkward talking about my ex-marriage.
Well, no, just let's pretend it's not. Pretend it's your. Well, it is awkward. I'll give you that.
It is quite, and I
But
don't want to be
hey,
telling his
Dina,
story because
I just read on your bio a few minutes ago. Your life's purpose to help each person she encounters to see and be who they truly
yes,
are. This is one of the
yes,
ways you're helping because there's people you understand. People are listening to this all over the world right now. They don't know you. They don't know me. They don't know. Well, you can see our pictures or whatever
right.
the fuck. The people are in this situation right now. Women are in this situation right now.
Yeah. So I want to talk about me and what I experienced, but because I own my story, I don't want to tell his story.
Fine.
And
Were you wetter than normal during this 6 week
well,
period?
you have to understand, I had been a dried up
You
woman
said
for
frigid.
many
That's
years.
a good way of describing it.
I was sexually dead, literally sexually dead during the first, 16, 17 years of my marriage. My children were all rather miraculously conceived, on his birthday every other year. I was that nice. I avoided sex at all costs until this moment when I was revolutionized. And what I believe happened to me is what is meant to happen for every human, that my sexuality, well, previously I had spirituality on a pedestal, an unattainable pedestal, and I had sexuality in the gutter. And I believed this was right and appropriate, and shame and fear were the linchpins that held these things in place. Fear that I would never quite attain God's approval was my spirituality, and shame that we had to do this thing to bring about babies, and we better not enjoy it too much, better do missionary only and don't crack a smile. I mean, it was really miles as far as the east is from the west was my spirituality and my sexuality. And I don't know what my soul, the actual creator, I don't know what, looked at me in that parking lot that day and said, "Let's mess with this one." And all of a sudden, and in a way I cannot explain now, much less then, my spirituality and sexuality were merged together like two flip sides of the same coin. They are one and the same for me. I do not have to maintain my spirituality nor my sexuality. They are both vibrantly alive and infused together. And I honestly believe we are all meant to have that.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think Owen would too. But I want to say something that we give all of our guests free reign to say whatever the fuck they want to say because it's, I don't know, it's America. But but I would not articulate it that the creator or the universe or whatever said I'm going to pick this one. Dena's welcome to do it, but I want to tell you, beautiful humans out there, that if you haven't experienced this, don't be waiting for the fucking creator or the fucking universe.
Totally agree.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, good. All right, all right. So you go 6 weeks. You're fucking your husband, and are you a little wetter at least? Is something happening down there?
Oh well, I'm on the verge of orgasm.
Okay,
I am frustrated.
So your pussy juices are flowing, is what you're saying, at this point.
I was very responsive.
All right,
and
so it took 6 weeks from the time that this incredible experience happened, and incredible experiences do happen. It wasn't like Dena was praying for God to send a bolt of sexual energy. Just
no, I didn't know to ask
and it wasn't God. In my opinion, it wasn't God. But whatever the fuck, it doesn't make a difference. The point is, what happened in between the time that happened and 6 weeks later when you achieve your first orgasm at the ripe old age of 42?
Okay. So on like day 4 of this, I was doing what I think I don't know about everybody. We were taught within our Christian circles, we had to have our quiet time with God every morning. So I would do this in the bathroom because a mother of many children can only find privacy in the bathroom. And I was in there with my Bible trying to read, but all I can think about is how I'm feeling, which is this sexual vibrancy. And it isn't just about the act of sex. It's the creative energy. It was this huge, overwhelming desire to be fully, vibrantly alive and to express it everywhere I could, including sexually. That's the ultimate expression of it. But it was overflowing everywhere. My life was becoming highly charged with this energy. And I was trying to focus on the Bible like I was supposed to. All these years I had done this.
Well, there's some good porn in the Bible.
Well, yes,
highly
and
charged
actually,
right now.
okay, so my thought was, and I remember saying to God as I understood God then, how am I supposed to do this? You did this to me. What am I supposed to do with this feeling? And my thought was, oh, wait a minute. The original Hebrew version of Song of Psalms was supposed to be so nearly, well, as you put it, pornographic, that you had to be 30 and married and male in order to read it. So that does it.
In church days, you're talking about, like in Christianity circles, yeah.
Yes.
Think about that
exactly.
for a second.
Yeah. Oh, I know. So I ran off to the computer, and we didn't have Google back then, but I did the equivalent. I was searching for something about the original Hebrew version of Song of Solomon, Song of Songs. And what came up was a website called The Marriage Bed, which was a Christian website to let Christian married couples talk about sex because there was no place else to do it in most of their lives. And first I'm thinking, oh my God, they're talking about sex and God in the same sentence. This is awful. I have to read it. And I devoured the website. I started posting. I became their most prolific poster overnight because I'm describing what they were all wanting. I had
Wait, time out. You're telling me you became the most prolific poster?
Yes.
Knowing you as well as I'm shocked. And you guys that are listening to this right now who know Dena Lynn from Facebook are laughing your ass off right now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
This woman has written you have written probably 17 books on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I hope you have them saved because they'd be a hell of a book. That's all.
They will. They are my fodder for a book one day when I finally get myself to do that.
All right. So you become the most prolific poster. Not a shock. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I've got the attention of the website owners. I've got the attention of a lot of frustrated husbands who desperately wanted their wives to have, like whatever bit you, please, pray that it will descend upon my wife. I was getting that daily. And I kept writing about this is how bad it was. This is how good it is. And there was at one point, it was a conversation about orgasms. And I remember writing, I think maybe I've had an orgasm. And one woman came on and said, honey, if you don't know you had one, then you haven't had one. And I wanted one because remember, I was having multiple sex per day, every day. And I
Whoa,
wasn't
whoa, whoa, whoa,
having
whoa, wait. With your husband, you were having multiple sex every day?
Oh yeah, I was wearing them out. Yeah, it was 5, 6 times a day, no exaggeration.
Wow.
Every day,
Making up for lost
every.
time, that's called.
Oh God, yes. Oh
And
yes.
any masturbation involved in this for you.
Well, hold on. That's where we're getting. So not yet.
All
No
right.
masturbation yet.
All right. I appreciate
So
your
the
discipline.
website
Kind of
owner
edging me
wrote to
right
me
now. This is called
privately.
edging.
Oh, hold on. It gets good. This website owner wrote to me privately and said, "Look, you've had 7 babies. Your PC muscle is probably shot. It needs to be tight in order to you to physiological experience an orgasm. So here's what I suggest. You need a crutch. Your crutch looks like a vibrator. So go to your closest sex shop and purchase a vibrator and get a loan and play with it until something happens." So I drove, I was in Fairfax, Virginia. I drove one town over to a little place in Culpeper, Virginia, and it was the Nice and Naughty Shop.
What was it called?
The Nice and Naughty
Nice
Shop.
and naughty. Santa
Nice
Claus,
and
like
naughty.
was the Santa Claus like the official man?
Yeah, yeah.
He
So I,
sees you when you're
next,
sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
She's getting to the climax here.
He
Let the lady
knows when
finish.
you've been bad or good, so
Oh,
be
be
good
good.
for goodness sake. And Dena pulls
yeah.
into the nice and naughty house, and then we want to
Okay.
find out what
Right,
happens.
you set me up. So I drove at that time a 15-passenger van because 7 then children. I pull into this parking lot, and on the back of my van are all of these Christian fist symbols, and like one for each kid, right? It was a play on words, and Holy Spirit doves, and Jesus bumper stickers. And I'm thinking, do I park it so nobody can see it, or do I park it so everybody can see it? So I pull in. I walk in the store, and there's this grandmother lady sitting behind the counter, and I'm a wide-eyed, talk about Dorothy in the Land of Oz. I've never been in a sex shop in my life, and I'm looking at everything, and I'm walking around. Can I help you? I think I'm okay. I think I'm good. I get back to the dildo section, and they were too realistic. We're talking veins and pubic fur, and it's like, no, 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 no. I want something not quite as obvious. So I go to the counter and I say, okay, listen, my name is Dena, and I just discovered that I really like sex, and Jesus did something to me to make me all different, and I keep having sex, but I haven't had an orgasm, and I got told I need to have a vibrator, and I'm hoping I can find a really good vibrator. What have you got to show me? And she blinks at me, and then she gets on the intercom. Betty, you need to get out here. You need to hear this. So Betty comes out, and Betty looks like, she was an extra in a 70s porn movie. She just walks out with her bubble gum and her big earrings and her leopard print and her black leather skirt and her stilettos and her fishnet stockings. She walks out.
What
She
was
hears
what
my
was
story.
what was this music playing when she walked out?
Yes. Oh yeah, chicka-boom, yeah. So they stand there, and she makes me repeat to Betty what I had just told her, and then they go to town showing me all of these different vibrators in the glass
Wait,
display
whoa,
case.
whoa. Wait, what do you mean they went to town? Like they literally demonstrated for you how to use them?
No. Just more like,
Oh.
here, put up your hand, feel this one, and
It
feel
make
the
for
surface of that.
as great a story as this is. It would make for even a greater story if they like literally physically like
Oh,
especially the
Come
grandma,
here, honey.
especially the grandma behind the
We're
counter.
doing this now.
Betty, come here.
Yeah,
We got a live one.
So I hear the door, the bell jingle, and another customer comes in, and it's a truck driver kind of dude. And next to the vibrator display case is the fleshlight display case. Now, I didn't know then what they were. I know now. And he's looking at those, but as he's looking, he's listening to me talk, and he's inching closer and closer. All of a sudden, I realized that my personal bubble in a sex shop is much bigger than my personal bubble at Walmart. So I turned to him and I said, dude, back off now. So he backs off, and I go back to, exploring the vibrators. And I finally decide that Mr. Pinky, which was a rather slender, phallic-shaped, pink with glitter in it and little silver nubs on the outside would be my
Your
next
your first, if you
right.
will.
Well, my first, yes, my first ever
Yeah.
toy. Yep. So they tell me,
Jacqueline calls hers Bob,
Bob. Well,
battery
yeah, Mr.
operated
Pinky,
boyfriend.
may he rest in peace. Was my first.
Did, Mi- Miss,
So,
so what? So you get Mr. Pinky,
uh-huh.
and you take
And I
Mr.
get
You
in my
pick,
van. Well, I get in my van and
Yeah.
I've got batteries, and
Yeah.
I put the batteries in, and I'm driving home, and I'm thinking, you know, I bet I could try this out on the way home. And I stop at a red light, and I'm opening the package, and then I realize there's a truck next to me looking very interested in what I'm up to, the truck driver. And I decide, nah, I'm gonna wait till I get home. So I go home, and the only place where I could have privacy was the room where I did my Bible studies. So I went in there and I closed my door, and I gave myself a guided tour. For the first time ever, I looked at my own genitalia with a mirror. I'd never looked
Wow.
ever in my life.
How did it look?
And I was fascinated. I started getting what all those Georgia O'Keeffe paintings were really all about, the orchids and all those. It was like, okay, I am fearfully and beautifully made, or whatever that verse is that came to mind.
Yes.
And I start playing with it. Now, I had never, ever, ever had an orgasm, ever. So I didn't really know what it was going to take. And I'm playing with this thing and playing with this thing. And obviously I discovered the clitoris is where the action is if I'm going to get anything to happen. And remember, I'd had 7 babies. So my muscles were quite
When you referred
muscles.
earlier to the PC muscle, that the gentleman so what a good dude to reach out to you and tell you what is a PC muscle?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
It's the lower hammock that basically holds up all of the internal organs, including the sexual organs. So for a woman,
what does it stand for, PC? Do you know?
Pubiococcyx, I believe.
Okay, right on.
So it goes from the pubic bone to the coccyx, and it literally includes the clitoris. It goes around the vagina. It goes around the anus. So all of those are potential orgasmic sites.
Yes, one would think that that's a fairly important muscle at that juncture.
Oh, well, the tension in it, that's where the spasms begin.
I feel like
For an orgasm. So it's like an instrument. Think of a guitar string that's too loose. You're not going to get a good tone from it. It needs to be tight enough. And mine was not. I mean, I hadn't done Kegels. I hadn't really had a need to. So I hadn't. And I wasn't sexually interested until then. So this was an area of my life where I had neglected. And 7 babies will do a number on that muscle for sure.
So you're in there with Mr. Pinky.
Yeah, so Mr. Pinky and I are getting acquainted.
Checking, and you're getting acquainted with yourself, amazingly.
Yes. I am fascinated by this because
Are you in your house by yourself at this juncture?
my children are downstairs, or I homeschooled, so they were always home. But I was locked in my own
Did
room.
you put a Veggie Tales episode on?
I must have thrown a couple of Veggie Tales at him. Yeah, must have. They were used to, mommy and daddy disappearing, so this was mommy disappearing, and my oldest was then 16, 17, so it wasn't like they were little tiny children running around loose. And
chances are some of your kids achieved orgasm before you did.
Well, I don't know. And
I bet you. I bet you.
Tell their story.
I bet you never even thought of that before right now. As many times as you told this story.
The household they grew up in, possibly not. I honestly
you
don't know.
Dena, do some research and get back to us on the next show about that, okay?
Gotcha.
Talk to your kids about that one.
Yeah. So Mr. Pinky and I are getting acquainted, and I noticed, I'm trying to relate this to something else in my life, and it felt familiar, and it occurred to me it felt like the same way that a sneeze starts to develop. And they're both reflexes, so in a sense there is that what's the word I want to use here? It's an involuntary reflex. So there was this building of tension, much like when you're going, ready to sneeze, right?
No,
and then
no. Excuse me. How are you doing that? How was that?
Like that.
Right. Okay. I'm just. I listen. What our job is to listen. Our job is to listen for the listeners to make sure that they're hearing what our guests want to hear. So how was that again? How was that?
Demonstrating a sneeze, however, yes, there is overlap.
How was that again?
That's enough.
No. How was that again, please?
like that.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure this is just
Just
strictly
like
for
that.
quality professional podcasting. Okay, that's all that is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Continue. All
Well,
right.
I'm
All
also
right.
trying to put myself back in the mindset then versus who I am now because I have evolved a bit. But it was feeling like a sneeze to me, and then my body did what felt like a pelvic sneeze, and it startled me because it was beyond my control, and it was unfamiliar to me. So I didn't prolong it. I didn't keep it going. I didn't write it. I let it just do that initial first sort of spasm, and then because I stopped the stimulation, it died down. But it was intriguing to me. So I thought that was cool. And I did it again. And I ended up having about 9 orgasms by the time all was said and done. And that became my daily meditation practice.
Were you speaking in tongues during those 9?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
not 9 in how long? How long did that take you to achieve your first 9 orgasms?
Oh, I think 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah,
Something like that.
any woman would be fine with that, right? Oh,
Oh, it was amazing.
My
Now
jaw's
then there
about
be
on the floor
uh,
right now.
it was to me it was like holy shit. And I wouldn't have said holy shit then. I would have said holy whatever at the time. But it was like, wow, isn't the human body amazing? The reverential feeling that I had, that merger of awestruckness and sexual gratification, there was no shame. There was no sense of I shouldn't be doing this. Whatever happened to me in that parking lot replaced all the lies that I previously had about sex with the truth that this is an incredible, powerful, sacred and profane, amazing human thing that the body can do. And it was the sexuality for me is that, or sex, having intimate sexual connection with another human being is the most spiritual thing that I can do with my body. And I somehow just knew that because of that experience.
and since my soul,
There you
my
go.
Savior God to thee, how great is
Yeah,
coming.
you know,
How
that
great
sense of
is coming.
it was there, yeah. And it stayed the same for me. Much has changed in my life. I'm no longer a Christian. I'm no longer married, but I kept the love for sex for sure. I kept the best out of 3.
I follow you on Facebook. I thought you were married.
Well, I'm remarried.
Oh.
I got married this past summer, but my husband now was not in my life back then. And actually at the time, well, here's what happened. In the aftermath of all that experience and the result of being on this website, there was something else going on. The church that we were in was rather legalistic, and we were wanting healing to come to the leaders and to the people who were being abused in the church. My ex-husband was basically the assistant pastor. It was liturgical, so it was a different sort of hierarchical situation, but we were like second in command, or he was, and then I was his wife. So we were asking for an investigation in what was really going on behind the scenes so that people could be healed, not so that anyone was destroyed by this, but for healing to come. And they asked us to lay low and they would investigate. Meanwhile, our head priest got wind of this investigation and he sought to undermine our testimony against him. So he did a search online using my typical signature line, which was Shalom Dena. He was probably looking for something where I may have been slandering him so that our testimony would be null and void.
But what
And
did he?
what he
What did he find, Dina?
He
He
found
found
the
your
marriage bed website
yes. He
where
found the
he
marriage
wrote
fucking
rather
bed.
explicitly about my first orgasm, buying that vibrator, how I learned to do a strip tease, and how I overcame an aversion to oral sex. And I wrote
When you
as a way.
hold on, time out. When you say aversion to oral sex, do you mean giving or receiving or both?
Well, I hated all kinds of sex, but I did not like giving oral sex.
And how much do you like it now or don't?
Oh, it's one of my favorite indoor sports. I
Wait.
I will. chase my
I'm
man
a gold
around
medalist, baby.
so I can do this.
And you enjoy receiving oral sex as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely, of course.
And
Giving, receiving, all of it. There's really nothing about sex I don't like.
really,
Mhm.
what about the cleanup after? That can be
Oh,
kind of
mess is part of the fun.
mess is part of the fun.
I like to wake up sticky.
We can obviously imagine what went down, so to speak, after the priest or whatever the fuck he was. I mean, listen, we're going to be talking about this hopefully for a long time, Big O. How
No, we can visit that. It was horrible. We were basically internationally excommunicated and shunned, and we had to move cross country.
But I want to know, how does this very demure pastor's wife, who never had an orgasm before she was 42, who was by her own testimony frigid, how does Dena end up on Fox News talking about sex? That's what I want to know. That story.
Oh, well, it wasn't Fox News. It was a morning show on Fox. But yes. So we got kicked out of our church. We moved from Washington, D.C. to Oregon. We left the institutional church. We began doing house church, and our home was the location for that. And the people who ran the marriage bed, who also did house church in Texas, moved from Texas into our guest house in Oregon. And we had this community with, I had baby number 8 at age 45, and we had this community with our 2 families plus other families who were in the area. And salon.com did an article on the marriage bed, and they were fascinated that there were actually Christians who liked sex. This was like news. This was national news. So they asked the owners of the marriage bed, Paul and Lori Byerly, if they happened to know of a couple who'd been impacted by their website. And this would have to be someone who wasn't afraid to speak publicly, to perhaps be on television. I was in Rite Aid looking for the coupon that matched deodorant with my youngest son when I get a phone call from Paul Byerly saying, "Hey, Dena, you want to fly to New York City and be on national television and talk about sex?" I said, "Yes, sure, Paul. Yeah, that'd be great. Whatever. Hold on. I'm in the middle of trying to match this coupon to the right deodorant." He said, "I'm serious. We fly out tomorrow morning." So the Mike and Juliet show in New York City caught wind of this Christians who actually like sex thing, and they flew Paul and Lori and my ex-husband and I from Oregon to New York City. We arrived late at night in Times Square.
Did they fly you first class?
No, but they did pay for everything, and they did pay for $1,000 a night motel, or hotel, I shouldn't say motel, high-rise hotel.
Wow.
And then took us to the studios in a limousine, and we're in the green room. I had my makeup put on sitting next to Willem Dafoe because he was going to be on the next segment. Our 2 co-guests.
Was he getting makeup on, William Dafoe?
He was getting makeup on, yeah. He's a very nice man.
Do you find William Dafoe attractive?
Yeah, he has an attractiveness to him. He's rather masculine in his presence. He's not as tall as I thought he was. Apparently, most men in Hollywood just aren't. But I
swear to God, yesterday I saw a feature on William Dafoe on CBS Sunday Morning. He is playing Vincent van Gogh.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And it was nice. Really an interesting piece, and he's got great.
He's
hair.
A great actor. He's got
great
a
actor,
lot
great hair.
of charisma. I enjoyed him. The other 2 guests on the show were Pastor Joe Beam, who talks a lot about sexuality. I really like Joe. And Ian Kerner, who wrote She Comes First, which is a primer on giving oral sex to women. And then he wrote He Comes Second, which is a primer on giving oral sex to men. Fabulous books. Great books. Highly recommend them.
We're talking with Dena Lynn. She is from the great state of Oregon. They have completely 100% legalized marijuana. And they and also, if I'm not mistaken, legalized assisted suicide, correct?
Yes.
I just had a friend of mine do assisted suicide with his wife a couple days ago in Canada. And
wow.
That's fucking heavy.
It's a rough day.
Yeah, and but my humble opinion, it's great to have the option. Have you had any of the legal produce yet in Oregon?
Well, yes. one of my wedding gifts was a bunch of cookies that are in the form of edibles. So we have a supply of
As
those.
cookies are, as cookies usually are.
Yes, cookies are edibles. Yes,
Hmm. And
yes.
she,
It's nice to have the options.
what beauty?
Definitely nice
I missed that part. What did you say?
to have the options regarding things such as entheogenic plants, such as pot, and to have the option of when you've had enough of your life and you would like to choose how to leave it. Those
Yeah,
options, I believe, are important.
yeah, you think? It's called fucking freedom, for Christ's sake.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Yeah, our society is still so fucked up. It's gotten more fucked up in some ways recently, as you may have noticed. But everything's a pendulum, and pendulums swing. And the pendulum was so overweighted against women for recorded history for sure, up until about 100 years ago. And then something happened, I don't know, maybe it was 30 years ago, when Oprah Winfrey brought the Berman sisters on her show. Maybe it's less than 30 years ago, and started talking about female orgasm and how to find the clitoris. And everything changed, well, certainly since women's suffrage and the sexual revolution. And the problem I see, D, is that women have changed. Women have adjusted to the new reality of equality and sexual freedom and not needing a man but still wanting a man. Men are still in the caveman era. One of the things we want to do on this program, Beautiful Humans, is to give guys an idea about how to catch up to what I think is the advanced species, the female species, and see if there's a way. I know there's a way. I know the way. But let me tell you something, guys. Women who are straight, first of all, it's amazing. It's a miracle there are any straight women left. First of all, that if there's nothing else, there's two evidences of God in the universe. I think number one is the clitoris. Only God could have thought up of that. There's no physiological purpose for the clitoris other than give sexual pleasure. You don't, as I was talking about it before you came on, as the Islamic world has proven, you can have babies without a clit.
Yeah.
But the clit is there purposely and solely for sexual pleasure. Jesus, that's a really nice thing. Secondly, the second evidence of God is that there's any straight women left after all this. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that you guys haven't all turned lesbianic. I swear to God. It's a miracle. Women don't need men anymore. They still want them, though. And we want to inform guys.
Men have gotten a bad rap lately.
No,
I mean,
no, we haven't,
seasons
honey.
men.
No, we haven't. What has happened, we have not gotten a bad rap, first of all. We have gotten a less than bad rap. You guys have been, all right, so let's say that recorded human history is 10,000 years old. Let's just have that as a number, okay? It's only in the last fucking 100 years that there's been any discussion relatively at all and any progress at all for the female species. That was due to males' massive insecurity, religious domination, bizarreness, twistedness, men's insecurity about the size of their penises, and so many other things. We have at least 10,000 years of crap coming to us. Having said that, that's not going to happen. So, what do you do about it? Yes, men are under attack like a motherfucker right now. We are under attack incredibly, and there's good reason for it. It wasn't your guys' fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't Owen's. It was definitely not Owen's fault. Have you seen a picture of Owen yet, Dena?
Ladies.
Yes, he's adorable.
No, he's fucking eye candy is what he is. I mean, he's Maxim did a survey of like the perfect male body as far as females are concerned. That's Owen Pratt's body. I mean, it's not, it was Brad Pitt's body in the thing, but it was. He's not smiling. He's just used to hearing. It's just boring now to him. So anyway, yes.
Owen in the Pews is my Instagram handle. Ladies, feel free. Slide in the DM if you need to.
Slide into the Owen in the Pews. So we have the male species has it coming. Specifically, of course, the guys that are living here. It's like, and I understand where African Americans want reparations for slavery. I get that, but it wasn't our fault. It wasn't the current America's fault. It was the old America. Now I understand. I think there should be something. Because there's a problem there, obviously, and at least there should be a discussion of it.
There's a difference between blame and responsibility. Blaming doesn't do any good, but if we each take a piece of the responsibility,
Exactly.
and say, what can I do?
To make a difference and to make it better. Exactly what Dena said. Her life's purpose is to help each person she encounters to see and be who they truly are. My whole thing is just let's leave this joint a little better off than we found it. So it's like, I walk down the sidewalk here at the Sex and the Pews studios in the complex we have here, and every so often I'll see a piece of garbage as I'm walking to throw away my own garbage. And guess what I do? Unless it's dog shit, then I won't fucking. This facility actually makes the people that have dogs here DNA their dogs, dog shit, so that they can. It's somebody's job to DNA test the dog shit so they can find the fucking dog owners. That's some control shit. Anyway, but we don't have a lot of dog shit here anymore. Anyway, the point is, I pick up a piece of paper, or a couple days ago it was a used condom. I passed that one up, but
I was having sex out here.
Well, somebody was, or somebody threw a used condom out the car or whatever.
Sorry.
Owen. But I just want to leave it a little better off. And we'll all be better off if we realize that as a species, men have really done wrong by women. That would be a good start. Now, but the women don't want men to be like them. If they're heterosexual, they don't. If they're heterosexual, no. They want them to be men. If they're heterosexual, if they're homosexual, if they're gay, if they're lesbians, of course they would want more of a similar. There's still kind of masculine and feminine roles, I suppose, in all gay relations. When we say all, these are general statements, and we believe they're generally true. That's why we say them. But men and women are different. A woman who's heterosexual doesn't want a pussy for a boyfriend or a husband. She's already got one. She didn't need another pussy. She doesn't want a pushover. But
that's what I mean when I say men are getting a bad rap. There's definitely a toxic masculinity, and there's a toxic femininity. By the way, we're not given the
but being masculine isn't being toxic, and being feminine isn't being toxic.
No, exactly.
It's when you judge the other sex for being different than you are. What an idea is that that a man and women have different views on things. Oh my God, she likes chocolate ice cream. I don't like chocolate. Well, fuck you. Let her like chocolate. She wants to talk all the time, and she's all emotional, and dude, you are different than your woman, and vice fucking versa. Viva la différence. Learn what makes a woman tick. Learn what makes a woman be turned on. Discipline yourself a little bit. Don't be so insecure about your male fucking ego and your small dick. Big fucking deal. By the way, most dicks are the same size. Would you agree with that, Dena?
No.
Well, you only have 8 experiences, so. A massive cock.
There's a spectrum in all things.
Yes, of course. But guys are so fucking concerned about the size of their penis. The average penis is 5.5 inches erect. The average. A big, substantial dick is 8 inches. I mean, when you get into the 9-inch territory, that's fucking amazing.
Sure. Well, those are bell curve for a reason, and the majority is going to be in the center.
Exactly. So, but even let's go to the 5.5 to 8, or 7 is solid. Let's go 5.5 to 7. That's only an 1.5 inch difference.
Mm-hmm.
And women can get off with Mr. Pinky, you guys.
Yes.
I mean, come on. You know what? It's our insecurity. I used to have a guy on my show named John Egan, who was on the Howard Stern show all the time. This was freaking 19 years ago when I first started doing shows on sex. And he wrote the book, How to Pick Up the World's Most Beautiful Women. And, of course, dick size is a major issue for guys. I mean, all you need to know about how insecure we are about our penises, ladies and gentlemen, is that when they decide to put up a monument to the father of our country in the nation's capital, named after him, by the way, Washington, Washington City it was originally called, then Washington District of Columbia. What do they put up? The biggest motherfucking dick in the world. See, our dad's dick is the biggest. Fucking Washington Monument. An obelisk. That's what it is. All those steeples on top of churches, those are just monuments to fertility. The god, it's pointing to the god of fertility. There's just big dicks up in the air.
The Tower of Babel comes to mind here.
Yeah, but
Trying to reach the gods.
that was different.
Yes.
Is this different?
Yeah, we're talking about dicks here, bro.
I feel like it's
We're talking
both phallic.
We're talking about, yeah. That's true. Well, at the tower, anything's phallic. You can make. See, that's the thing. That's how we think. Women don't think that way. John Egan did a survey. He surveyed 2,000 women. He put a 4-inch. He didn't tell them how big they were, but he put a 4-inch erect cock on a picture, a 5.5, and a 7.5, and said to the women, if you had a choice, which one would you choose? And 100% chose the average dick. 100%. It's too large of dick.
It depends on to whom it's attached. That's going to be a large factor for most women.
That's the point. If a guy knows what he's doing, both attitudinally and with technique and with discipline, he's going to be more effective than the guy with the biggest cock on the planet. You guys, you have to understand something. There's only so much room in there, and a massive cock hurts. Women are intimidated by it. But guys are visually stimulated because we're all measuring each other in the locker room. Stop it. Stop measuring yourself and comparing yourself to other people. It's not healthy. Don't find your identity in your penis size or how much money you make or what kind of house you have or how beautiful your wife. Find your identity in the unity that is for all, in our one. If you find your identity in what you do, you're fucked. We're called human beings for a reason. We're not human doings. We're human beings. So just be here with us every day on Sex in the Pews. Dena?
Mm-hmm.
Did you enjoy?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. This was very pleasurable.
Never ask a woman, gentlemen, if she enjoyed. If you don't know that she enjoyed after the fact, she didn't enjoy. You should know that.
I'm making all the appropriate sounds that show that, yes, indeed, I had pleasure here today.
I don't think you have made all the appropriate sounds yet. But,
Well, my laughter is just going to have to do.
but you made some great appropriate sounds and some amazing contribution, not only to this podcast effort, but to the planet. I firmly believe that. Obviously, Dena knows this because I know it, and she knows it, and I know that she knows that I know that she knows that I know. She and I go way back. Owen is aware of our past friendship, and I told him, well, what did I tell you about Dena Lynn?
She would be a great contribution to this podcast.
Yeah. And I told you she was super smart,
Super duper smart.
and articulate, and funny, and intelligent.
Articulate motherfucking lit.
Yep, that's what she's articulate. Like what was it?
Articulate motherfucking lit.
Yeah, write that down. That's a T-shirt right there.
Putting that on my resume. Uh-huh.
All right, so, can we go again sometime?
I'd love to. Yes.
The answer is yes. To my
Multiples are good.
There's nothing wrong with them, ladies and gentlemen. Check us out at sexinthepews.com. Email us at fun@sexinthepews.com. Join the contest, our weekly Dick Pick of the Week contest. You know about the Dick Pick of the Week, Dena?
I do not.
Yeah, you should click on the website and you'll find it's
because I don't already get enough of those on Facebook, huh?
Yeah, well, that's that. Frankly, that's the whole point of the Dick Pick of the Week contest. You'll get it, and probably you'll win the first T-shirt.
All right.
The T-shirt is Got Splinters. Sex in the Pews, and and sign up for the newsletter there, and we'll be back on Monday, Lord willing, if the creek don't rise.
Watch that.
It's good to me.
Got
it. Great.
Thank you so much. Dena's website, by the way, is Serendipities by Dena, serendipitiesbydena.com. She's got amazing tables, amazing artwork. She's a art teacher there, and you're kind of in the Portland area-ish, right?
Yeah, Salem, Portland, Willamette Valley, yeah.
Salem? Is it raining there right now?
Not currently. The sun is out.
Wow.
I know.
Zach Wagman, wow.
Yeah.
It's an inside joke. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
And I appreciate you, beautiful humans, tuning in. And until next time, this is Glenn Klein
And Owen Press.
saying
Shalom, everybody.
Sex in the pews. Sex in the pews. Sex in the pews.
Sex in the pew.
Bitches.
You had any reflections?